Mm, okay, turn this thing to the side. How do I find? Turn off the camera. Right? How do I find my stuff that I need now? Okay. Mm, you see Mr. Trump win already? Okay, this is it. Yeah. I don't know if this is the news from this morning or from last night. I'm gonna go take a shower. I'm gonna leave you guys watching the TV. It's 5:20. gonna go wake up my child to get ready for school. This is the bed already. Mm. Hi, Jojo. Alright, I'm gonna go back to the TV. I gotta be careful when I come back. I'm gonna go take a shower, come back. Make sure come back and turn this dirty camera off. How is everybody doing? I'm Melissa Shokatoff. So y'all watch that. Is this a mess from last night? But whatever. I feel they already give him the president already.
that he has total presidential power in terms of official acts based on the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year. Does not have to serve in prison despite being convicted in a criminal trial. And despite pressuring his own vice president to overturn an election, has been warmly embraced by the party, the Republican Party once again, won the presidency based on our CBS News projection. And he's willing and able and ready and excited for the presidency and willing to himself to return to the White House. Donald Trump is a threat, a danger to American democracy. As you saw in Florida today, many Americans believe he's an agent of change. He's an outsider who speaks to their grievances. This country is not really necessarily ideologically divided, red versus blue, but it's divided deeply about who Donald Trump is, what he represents, what this country is in November of 2024. Donald Trump winning the crucial battlegrounds of Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin. At this point, 4 of those 7 battlegrounds, and we are still waiting on Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan. But a sweep by Donald Trump, who is also doing well in the popular vote. Behind those numbers, the Vice President Kamala Harris failing to bring together the coalition that normally propels a Democrat into the White House. So we will have more on that. I want to go now to Major Garrett at the data desk with more information about how Donald Trump achieved this victory tonight. Major Garrett. So Wisconsin was the key to this re-election of former President Trump, making him president-elect, be the 47th president of the United States. Anthony Salvanto will walk us through, because Nora, you came over here about an hour ago. We were waiting on a couple of key precincts in Wisconsin to provide the absolute information we needed to make this call. Anthony, how did that happen? Well, we got the information we needed, which was really out of Milwaukee. Okay, once we saw that, it was a question of Kamala Harris, who was trailing, didn't have enough votes to be able to catch up. Even though you see that big number in Milwaukee, it just wasn't enough. The thing, though, the big thing here is this: this is a 1-point victory for Donald Trump. Now, how do you do that? It means he consistently hit his vote targets in county after county, or exceeded his 2020 performance. So I'm going to hit, Racine here, and I'll just go county after county where, he, even if he came close to them in one after another, okay, he was at least consistent with his 2020 numbers, or just a little bit better, and that's how he added up all of that to get over the top. So one of the things that you look for, not just in Wisconsin here at the data desk, but that consistency of pattern, and he was able to pull together his old coalition and then add a little more to it, especially in a lot of cities, cutting a little into those Democratic margins with more minority voters, okay, more young voters, all that in and around the cities. We saw those patterns start to emerge. Not, close victories, but consistent ones throughout those states, Nora. Trump could win all of the 7 battleground states tonight? Yeah, well, maybe not could, maybe not this morning, but yes, so it is on pace to win Nevada. He is on pace to win Michigan. Arizona is the only one that still looks theoretically possible for the vice president, but based on the statistics that the data desk has been reviewing, Nevada and Michigan are both leaning very strongly in the former president's direction. I want to be clear about the timing. He could win them, not necessarily tonight. I'm not sure all those ballots will get counted this evening or this morning. It's the morning. It's all blurred now. But at some point we'll get through Nevada, Arizona, and Michigan. And the simple thematic truth, Nora and team at the desk. The Trump campaign said for the better part of 2 weeks, the former president has never polled better than he is currently polling. If he just gets a tick above where he's polling, 48, 49 in all these battleground states, he will win them all. That theory is playing out over and over and over. He was being polled accurately, and he pulled a little bit more than those polling averages to provide the victory in Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and we've told you Michigan and Nevada are setting up very well for him, and possibly also Arizona as well.
It's an excellent point. Thank you, gentlemen, and Scott McFarland. Donald Trump will return to Washington claiming a mandate with this big win tonight, and he will also have a Republican-controlled Senate that is back in the majority after 4 years, which will allow him to install loyalists throughout the government, even new choices to the Supreme Court if there are retirements. Explain what that could mean in terms of his legislative agenda and enacting change.
Might seem like the die is cast already, but every one of those Senate seats remaining, the more Republicans can get in that majority, the more it bolsters Donald Trump when it comes time to confirm a cabinet, when it comes time for a possible Supreme Court nomination, to get all his legislation through. Every race means something right now. So we'll watch Michigan, we'll watch Pennsylvania, Nevada. They all have currency and leverage for Donald Trump, who on January 6, 2025, will have his election certified by Vice President Harris. I can't get past the human story here. There may be no more polarizing political figure in modern times, but I think everybody can reflect that 116 days ago, got shot at a rally. I was there in Butler, Pennsylvania. Any number of people I met at that rally, we still carry some of that with us. It was a seminal moment in our lives to be ducking bullets at a Secret Service protected rally. He got hit by one and kept going to the rallies, kept walking out on that stage to those microphones. You mixed that with his brand of being a fighter and having courage, that iconic image, pumping up that fist, blood dripping down his face. Hard to imagine that didn't have an outsized impact, not just in Western Pennsylvania.
That photo was by the Associated Press's Evan Bucci, Trump's fist in the air. It was put on T-shirts by Trump supporters, hats,
ads.
It was on the billboards of other candidates and yard signs of other candidates trying to associate themselves with him, saying, I'm a fighter like. And their heads were small and his picture was large.
It also gave him the opportunity, Donald Trump, to say, which I think resonated with many of his supporters, that God had chosen him to survive that assassination attempt. And while some people recoiled at him saying that, it was another emotional connection for Donald Trump with his supporters.
And he gave his speech tonight in West Palm Beach, where it should be underscored, there's another person charged with assassination attempt September 14th on that Sunday while he was golfing at that same area where he gave his speech tonight. That's an apolitical way of connecting with Americans, and it's hard to imagine that didn't have an impact.
And Margaret Brennan, the president has said, promises made, promises kept. He has told his supporters, we will fix it, we'll bring in a golden era. What is his record on that? What's he promising to do?
Well, if you look at what he delivered in the first 4 years versus what he promised, there was a lot that went undelivered. He did deliver on that single legislative achievement that Gary Cohn was the architect of, the tax cuts. But when it came to, for example, building the wall and having Mexico pay for it, it was something like, just a few miles. You have all sorts of different things that were on his to-do list that he did not achieve. Now, being president and dealing with circumstances you are handed, such as COVID, was pretty extraordinary. There were things that he actually did achieve that he didn't trumpet on the campaign trail because of the interesting dynamic we have in our politics right now. He could have come out there and said, yes, I was handed COVID, but I delivered you a vaccine because I harnessed, science and business and the great minds and leadership of America. He didn't do that. He played more towards some of these things that enraged, that anger, and by the way, apparently galvanized people enough to get in a car and show up and vote on November the 5th. I think we have to all take time to digest this. We're doing it in the moment, but I don't think we are all quite grasping the gravity of sending Donald Trump back to Washington with the word you use, Nora, a mandate. It's not just the man, it is a mandate. They have control in a significant way of Senate. And possibly the House. We may not know that definitively for a little bit of time, but this is a really interesting message being sent by the electorate tonight.
All presidents want to act, and they are frustrated in office by a number of things. Tradition, you can't do that because previous presidents haven't done it. They're frustrated by having to get reelected, so they have to be careful about the voters. They're frustrated in some cases about, well, that's illegal, Mr. President. You can't do that, so you shouldn't do it. And then finally, in the most extreme cases, by political censure, by impeachment. All four of those latches are unhooked for Donald Trump. He faces none of those limitations. And he also is, in our modern presidency, the president who has been most easily, he has most easily indulged his own personal desires in using power in his office.
The argument that Kamala Harris and her supporters made is that Donald Trump is unstable, unhinged, and unchecked because of the immunity. That message was used after the many of his chief of staff in particular said that he was a fascist, that he was dangerous, that he was a threat to national security. And the voters today have returned him to office with a mandate, despite those judgments of people who have 4 stars on their shoulders and worked closely with him for several years.
It's not even despite sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
In
without
spite of.
or without any consideration and a deliberate decision to endure it. One thing we have to acknowledge, I believe, as reporters, is that on the campaign trail, so many voters do not care about how Trump's behavior and conduct are characterized by his critics or those who believe they are guardrails for American democracy. They are sharply dismissive when the points are raised by journalists and by others. This is a fact I have encountered constantly as a reporter. Dismissive. And when you bring up all these different data points about character, conduct, and about how presidential norms have been established for over 2 centuries in American political life, there's a pushback against that kind of assertion about norms, constitution, a constitutional system, and even the rule of law. What we have to also, I think, acknowledge as reporters is we are entering a new moment in America that is volatile, where you do not have an acceptance, broadly speaking, of how the rule of law is defined in the United States and how the Constitution is defined.
How broad is this mandate, which he is now claiming? Because think of some of the things he said openly during the end of his campaign about military tribunals for his congressional critics, about stripping licenses from broadcasters, about, at some point, deporting millions of people in short order. Can he put that all beneath the umbrella of, I've got a mandate, I said this aloud before you went to vote?
And is that the kind of radical change that his supporters think is necessary? Yeah. Yes. Potentially.
We should point out, we've heard nothing from the vice president. Her campaign had supporters sent home, what was it, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock this morning. We've had no word from the White House as to whether President Biden has been informed, whether he's been watching, whether he will speak to the world about this later today. The only thing on his schedule right now is a security briefing at the 2 o'clock hour. And we expect will still be held, but we'll see if he decides to speak, and then when, if at all, the vice president will speak for supporters, and what even is the protocol? Does she go first and then him? Does he have to go first and then her? We'll see in the coming hours. So far, nobody at the White House has responded to questions about whether there's a change in schedule today.
All this can be traced back to that fateful summer day in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, when he's sitting there with his family and a few key advisors, and he decides to exit the presidential race in the summer. Stunning. And now we end up here with his vice president losing to the one person he detests politically more than anyone.
And I would take this all the way back to late May. Remember, it was Joe Biden who said, let's debate.
Right.
Right? They rolled the dice.
Yes.
2 debates. He accepted, Trump did. Biden
But it was a
screwed up.
devastatingly embarrassing debate
Absolutely.
for the president of the United
This
States.
all traces back to that.
Massive
They decision
miscalculation.
What a great historical counterfactual. Imagine if Biden doesn't do that debate. Is he still the nominee?
But Trump supporters would say that that proved what Donald Trump had been telling them, which was that Joe Biden wasn't up to it, that he was too old for it.
Yep.
Without realizing the irony of now we have elected the oldest president of the United States in this moment. You know, one thing that is, as we talk about the projection into the world, one thing that was scheduled, has been scheduled for some time, was the testing tonight of an unarmed ICBM test launch in the Pacific by the United States as a show of force to say, don't mess with us. We're going through a political transition. We still have the most fearsome fighting force, most lethal fighting force in the world. We are at a state of readiness. But now we're going to have to see what these remaining few weeks and months of the Biden administration will look like. This is not an insignificant transition. This is a world already in a period looking at a rising China in a way that is not just militarily threatening, but in the American infrastructure, as we continue to learn that with these disclosures, through reporting, by the way, that major telecom companies have been breached, that Chinese linked hackers are within the infrastructure of telecom and possibly able to access audio of phone calls. I mean, we have had major significant security breaches in ways we haven't really been focused on because we've been focused on the election. These are the things that are going to land on Donald Trump's desk. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with Vladimir Putin, including reports that the Chinese targeted and attempted hacks into Donald Trump's phone, J.D. Vance's phone, and additional officials? I asked the vice president whether she had been targeted. She would not answer that question to me. I want to bring in Democratic strategist Joel Payne. He has been with us as well all night. And Joel, I want to ask you, what do you think this means for the future of the Democratic Party?
Sure. Well, first, while we're talking about foreign attacks, let's not forget our elections infrastructure were under threat and duress today as well. The FBI talked about all the attempted interventions that Russian state actors tried to make in places like Georgia, and I think that's worth bringing up as well. But just talking about the future of the Democratic Party, you know, I was recently talking to an elected official in the state of Wisconsin. Actually, Leslie and I did on our podcast, Crosstalk Politics, and he foreshadowed kind of the fall off that we saw in the state of Wisconsin with Black voters. He talked about how in urban centers, he is of Dane County, and there was folks in Milwaukee who he said just did not feel a connection to the Harris coalition. They did not feel reached out to. They did not feel engaged. It wasn't for lack of trying. It's just that the connection point wasn't there. There was a bit of a signal. And I know that there are anecdotes like that all across the country within the Democratic Party. Last thing I would say, there was a controversial paid media campaign that the Trump campaign ran after the debate a few weeks ago. It was around transgender operations for prisoners. And I talked to a national pollster who had eyes on kind of some of the internals in Harris World, and they told me that those ads did real damage to Harris. And I wonder if she was ever able to fully recover from some of the damage. I mean, Trump in that paid media program really went to work on Harris, and it was suggested to me that what we assumed was her coming back from some of those difficult public, coming back from kind of a low point a few weeks ago, was not completed. Like she had a deficit to make up because of the work that the Trump campaign did in those paid media attacks in October, and that was something that a national pollster said to me.
Joel Payne, thank you for your analysis. Final thoughts, Ed O'Keefe.
Well, I think we've learned that $1 billion 100-day quest to win the White House is not enough in either regard. We need more time and more money, and I think there's going to be a lot of questions asked among Democrats about how it is you lost Latino votes, how it is you lost women, and how it is they need to campaign to a country that is changing and clearly worries much more about its pocketbook than about its identity. It's a devastating loss for Democrats who were convinced they were going to make history, and instead a different kind of history has been made this morning.
For Democrats who want some check on Donald Trump, the vote counting in California and Arizona this week is critical for control of the U.S. House.
He's a political giant, eclipsing Reagan probably in the Republican Party in terms of his influence. He's probably the greatest ego and sense of impulse of any president in the modern era and has fewer checks now on him when he's in office.
Margaret Brennan.
Nor the irony of a time when we're talking about women's rights at the center of a campaign, and we are now seeing the second woman to lose to Donald Trump in 8 years. And it's something that I think will resonate with a lot of young girls and people around the world who are waiting to see if a female could be commander-in-chief of the most powerful country in the world.
Quickly, I'll end with where I began earlier in the evening. Trump was so calm.
The camera.
Returns came in so calm,
God damn it.
confident. This is someone who's ready to take the reins again. In his view, not startled at all by the presidency once again coming to him.
Trump won tonight as 2024 voters were looking for a leader, someone who would bring about change. And according to exit polls, that change for them was bringing back Donald Trump to the White House. He was propelled by a dissatisfied electorate, dissatisfied with the state of the country, the economy, and the impact of inflation. So an incredibly tight campaign ending with a big night for the Republican Party, a night that was expected to last 4 days, instead ends in victory at daybreak for Donald Trump. CBS News projects that the 45th president will be reelected and become our 47th president of the United States. He will be the oldest president ever elected in American history, only the second man to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. This is a political earthquake in many ways, regaining the office that he held for 4 years. Trump will have the backing of a Republican Senate to help pass his agenda and bring in his cabinet. What we still don't know is who will control the House in this election. Americans have made their voices heard. Thank you for watching, and stay with CBS News for the latest election coverage.
When my doctor gave me Breztri for my COPD, things changed for me. Breztri gave me better breathing, symptom improvement, and reduced flare-ups.
Breztri won't replace a rescue inhaler for sudden breathing problems. It is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breztri more than prescribed. Breztri may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if
You
you
guys
breathing,
want
chest
that?
pain, mouth or tongue swelling,
Which I
problems
woke up and
urinating,
saw my
vision
laptop
changes, or
earlier,
migraine
and it
occur.
was
Ask your
out of the
doctor
scene.
about Breztri.
What could we do? Didn't know they wasn't going to put Kamala in. Prejudice against women.
Kids get the angels every day. That's where we come. Cortex, the original 100% waterproof kid-proof pet food. Browse durable styles at CortexForce.com today.
Why is it so hard? I just wanted that TV. You're still doing that? It's so confusing. Once we got a Roku TV, it's great for streaming and it updates itself so it keeps getting better.
Less streaming, more streaming. Roku.
Listen to Hidden Hours on Apple Podcasts. An original documentary from CBS reports.
Imagine yourself in Manhattan with no police, no army, no mayor.
The people of Haiti stare down poverty, corruption, natural disasters, and violence. 90% of the guns that are used to fight gangs in Haiti are American guns. But with an unbreakable spirit and eternal optimism,
There are days where I cry, but we can't be discouraged. We still believe in Haiti.
they're still able to look ahead with hope.
Haiti is on the brink of transformation, a radical shift. Asians are coming together and saying things must change.
Fighting for Haiti, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Let's do it. Let's do this. I can see clearly now. There's no greatest
Superstar approaching, superstar approaching. Just get your popcorn and your face.
Come on, Julia. I will if you will. You go, gal.
You can't get into the market. It's okay. Renting is fine.
Stocks, oh, it's bad. Screw capital, oh, it's bad. It's not true.
You're making a wonderful lemon chicken.
Look,
I wonder what Serena's doing. I wonder how Serena's feeling.
That's a really good question. No one's asked me that yet.
yeah. I was 41.
See you 7 o'clock sharp.
America Decides is your place for fact-based, unbiased sporting.
There's the White House, the Capitol, on the campaign trail.
What do you say to those in your park? Many cracks in the Republican Party.
Our reporters and our anchors travel the country talking to voters like you.
About the issues that matter most.
Immigration is really a factor right now.
They're going to be driving your decisions. What would you say to those who say, look, that's just democracy at work?
Listening to you, bringing your voice into our coverage. I want a strong, proud America.
Is democracy on the ballot in 2024? Let us help you decide. America Decides. Stream our expanded 1-hour program Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Exclusively on CBS News 24/7, the streaming home of CBS News.
CBS Morning Plus, clearly more news, more smart conversation,
More money-saving tips, more recipes,
more uplifting ways to get you on your way.
plus more sports, more weather.
Clearly more CBS Mornings.
Come on, Julia. I will if you will. Superstar coaching, superstar coaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices.
Give me so much. You, 7 o'clock sharp.
Are you ready for some tough questions?
You're answering my question.
It's mind-blowing.
What do you love about America? Question is, what is your truth?
Well, it's better than being cold, but then 81.
Donald Trump is the first president since Grover Cleveland to be elected to non-consecutive terms. He will also become the oldest president ever sworn into office, beating President Biden to
Age better than that.
2021 by just a few months.
Trump made it to the 70 electoral college votes to defeat Vice President Kamala Harris, and he's done it. In the end, the race was not as close as many predicted. Trump not only first key battleground states, but also one of the popular vote in something he's never done before.
And as we showed you at the top, the former president celebrated last night at his Mar-a-Lago estate along with family, friends, and allies. CBS News projects also out in Congress. The Senate has flipped to Republican control. The House is still a toss-up, and of course, he has a conservative majority on Supreme Court as well. Well, Tony Nicole had a late night and an early morning covering all of this for us. He's across from Mar-a-Lago. He's in West Palm Beach this morning. Tony, good evening, good morning. What can you tell us? What is the latest there?
Gail, you'll be going for a late night and what a moment in American history, really a wow moment in American history. One of the greatest comebacks in political history, as many people put it to me last night. Think about this: a twice impeached, 4 times indicted, once convicted candidate now appears or is at this point the president-elect of the United States for a second time. And inside that Trump launch party headquarters, I noticed the first moments of excitement of exuberance around 9 p.m. They were dancing full on the 12 by 11 p.m. And after the network started projecting Pennsylvania and then Wisconsin in Donald Trump's favor, pure joy from his supporters. I asked people to summarize how they were feeling in one word. I got one person telling me fantastic, another relieved, still another vindicated. And then, of course,
itself. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. It's just crazy. Donald John Trump addressed his supporters just before 2:30 this morning, alleging to have changed the laws after night break his vote for Bush and often. I want to thank the American people for ensuring that honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. I think we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America.
Likely Vice President to be J.D. Vance promised that this political comeback for the ages would now become an economic comeback for America. Trump's crowd of Watch Night faithful included the CEO of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Dana White, calling the apparent victory karmic vindication.
This is what happens when the machine comes at you.
Meanwhile, earlier in the night, Vice President Kamala Harris declined to address her own election night watch party at her alma mater, Howard University, leaving her campaign co-director to break the news to an already thinning crowd.
We will continue overnight to fight to make sure
That every vote is counted,
that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight.
a night that began with cautious optimism curdled into something else entirely after Harris was projected to lose key battleground states like North Carolina and Georgia. Georgia, where Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger called the race for Trump before 11 p.m., even as the former president still faces felony charges there for his alleged attempt to overturn Georgia's 2020 results. That is one of several now uncertain cases against Trump, including federal charges tied to his alleged efforts to block certification of the last presidential election. As for what now, well, he said he would fire the special counsel leading that investigation. He's also promised the mass expulsion of undocumented immigrants.
From day one, I will launch a largest deportation program.
Stepped up tariffs on foreign countries, and a public health related cabinet role for former third-party candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a figure known for his anti-vaccine rhetoric. About his famous claim to act like a dictator for a day, his first day in office, that is, well, you can expect him to greenlight more drilling for oil. But for now, as most Americans say the country has been headed in the wrong direction, there was also an appeal to youth.
We're going to help our country heal. Help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help right there.
And I'm happy to say that with me here in Florida is our tireless CBS News campaign reporter, Olivier Rinaldi. Olivier, you have one of the hardest jobs on the campaign. You've been following Donald Trump from the very beginning, been to more rallies than I'd say anybody, particularly on the CBS team. You're in a unique position to answer the question on a lot of people's minds right now, which is how did you do this?
Well, always on like their signature grounding. This is something that started back in Iowa. It's different than anything that we've seen before. The Trump campaign, we are deputized people that were the super fans. These were Trump loyalists. These were people that were volunteers that actually were tasked with going door to door in their communities and if we reached 10 voters and we're going to get them to turn out for Trump. There would be no reward, whether that be a t-shirt, whether that be a hat. The next team that
You see that? It's driving people.
I knew the election was going in a direction that was positive for Donald Trump when you told me that you were hearing from inside the campaign and they were looking at the exit polls quote gleefully. It certainly ended up that way for him last night. And thank you so much for your work this campaign season. You can now rest, I can say. And back to you, New York is maybe both of us pass out. It's been a very long night that breaking news may have noticed in my story. We still have nothing in the trend. We're very good.
joined now by CBS News Director of Elections and Celebrity Example Secretary Correspondent Major Garrett. Good morning to you both. All right, so now let's break it down first. How did Trump pull this off? So we're going to do a couple of things this morning. Anthony's going to walk through 3 states that so far the former president flipped in this election cycle. And while he does that, he's going to show you some things that are indicative of how that happened. And I'm going to give you some exit poll data while he's doing that to help explain this whole. So let's start in Georgia, Anthony. From the consistency on Trump, he marched with the people that needed to win. So you can see it on this map, all these rural areas in red. Now what I'm going to show you, and that was what we did to get some votes to win, right? But I want to show you the way in which this vote changed from 2020. In many cases across, especially rural parts of the state, he did a couple of points better than he did in 2020. Hitting his targets with rural voters, evangelical voters, and that's when we did the exit poll data to reinforce what you're seeing visually here among conservative voters. Self-identified conservatives Trump did 4 points better this cycle than 2020. White evangelicals, 5 points better than 2020. White and no college education, about even, but for those first 2 categories, the arrows and the exit polls tell the story. All right, Anthony, let's go to Pennsylvania. Got that. Everybody watch this going in, and I want to show you because we always went out and talked about it, split around the Philadelphia area and up into the Lehigh Valley. Again, a lot of local guys going here, a lot of support voters. Now, the key here is I'm going to show you the 2020 vote, okay, compare that in the area, and then watch what happens at Baker Hill. I'll hit it. Morning, he said it. Watch this area here because it's kind of more red, but in 2020 it was kind of more blue, right? So now it came back a little bit more. It's kind of red, more blue. That tells you that Donald Trump jumped it up, stole some of those suburbs. And now let's lay over the exit polls and explain what happened to the Democratic coalition. And it's perfectly illustrated by what you just saw in Eastern Pennsylvania among Latino voters. Kamala Harris shed support as compared to Joe Biden, President Biden in 2020. Among young voters, didn't do as well as President Biden did in 2020. And even among women, slightly worse in 2024 for Vice President Harris than Joe Biden's performance. That is the cracking of the Democratic coalition, which showed up in lots of battleground states, but most especially it showed up in the leakage seen here in Eastern Pennsylvania. Now let's round this out, Anthony. Let's go to Wisconsin. Yeah. Wisconsin, we call this, local to the night. I created it early morning hours. What we were waiting for was Milwaukee, but that's part of the tale here, which is to say that Democrats need to do well in a couple of key counties in Wisconsin. Dane County around Madison, and then in Milwaukee here. And what we saw here this to 2020 was that Harris got just slightly fewer votes than Joe Biden, but she needed to do more because, same story, Donald Trump had won up the score all throughout the rest of the state. Again, with that consistency, and that's how he hit his marks. And an exit poll piece of information that applies to Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. 3 states so far the former president has flipped. For voters who said their finances fell to them worse than 4 years ago, look at that number. 18% for former President Trump, 17% for Vice President Pence. Thank you, guys. All right, Major Anthony, thank you. Ahead, we will break down how the Republicans take back control of the Senate and what it can do for the country. But first, it's time to check the weather.
All right, you see it? So we keep the office back to Trump. Do you like it? No? I mean, what could we do? What could we do? You know, they were doing it. Isn't that a beautiful?
Do your dry eyes still feel gritty? Or tired? With Libo, I can feel
Oh.
prescription dry eye drop is also a protective layer Let's do something about it. Novocita's Future Review Serum reverses visible signs of sun damage with the world's first peptide technology. Novocita, don't regret, just reverse.
Let's review. We're not going to talk about traffic or weather. If anyone brings up lawn care, I will handle it. Posting can be extremely difficult for young homeowners turning into their parents. Okay, he's still drinking. No. Let's try again. You wouldn't mind. It gets ugly. You can either take it off or I'll take it off. Yeah, Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents, but we can protect your home. You want one of us. That's fine. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor tracks your glucose in real time, and over time, it can help lower your A1C. This is progress. No more trouble for your Freestyle Libre diabetes.
Ahead, there were big concerns heading into this election about disinformation and other threats to our voting system. David Becker will join us next to tell us how the system held up. Plus, we'll take a look at how Georgia flipped back to the Republican side. You're watching CBS Morning, so thank you for that. We'll be right back. Come on, Julia. I will if you will. You know that. That's right.
I want to make sure that my voice doesn't also lift up other voices and chant right a bit of school.
Treasure of the government.
Is like missing to these children close to Russia. How true the world prepares for this trip. Definitely not. Let's go to comfortable. It is time for the seconds of CBS. That's Paramount Plus.
Go to the ends of the earth right now. That's something crazy. At the beach with the stars. Here we are.
Yes, it's like up there.
This is pretty fun.
Therefore, experience thought-provoking, multi-layered, innovative, and truly original stories. Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday Morning.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every Sunday.
All the time.
We've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports Agents gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. Big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement in the banking business with highlights.
What a finish at the final round of play.
And in just the balance. And a freaky Tony Romo joins the conversation.
What can you say about this game?
All you need for sports in the sun will bring you that breaking news right here on HQ. Find
calculate all this, I am very hopeful that we're going to have not only a larger majority in the House to make my job easier, but we take the Senate and the White House as well. I think that's what's going to happen.
That's House Speaker Mike Johnson expressing high hopes before many of the results were in for yesterday's election. And it's looking like his prediction is coming true, at least for the Senate. Scott McFarland has been working long hours keeping track of all of this. Joins us now to bring us up to date. Scott, good morning to you. So what are your thoughts on what Capitol Hill is going to look like come January?
Yeah, Gail, good morning. Trump's going to have some muscle in the U.S. Senate. I want to bring up the U.S. Senate and show you where we are as this morning begins. Republicans hit that magic number. And in either 50 or 51 seats, Democrats are trying to nurse this very narrow majority and stepped in quicksand early in the evening. They sunk deeper and deeper into quicksand as Tuesday evening progressed. West Virginia's Democratic Senate seat is going to go to the Republican contender, two-term Governor Jim Justice. He wins, and as you can see from those numbers, he won big. In Ohio, the neighboring state, Democrats are trying to nurse their Senate seat there with three-term incumbent Sherrod Brown, who served in the U.S. House previously and literally wrote a book about Congress. Sherrod Brown projected to lose to Republican Bernie Moreno. Arizona was a spot where Democrats were able to play defense last night. Phoenix area Congressman Ruben Gallego looks like he'll hold that seat, defeating Kerry Lake, who lost the governor's race in Arizona 2 years earlier. But Democrats still face a murderer's row of races to try to minimize the damage here. In Michigan, a competitive race between two people challenging for a retiree spot. Democrat Alyssa Slotkin, the Republican is Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers, a former member of Congress. Slotkin serves in Congress now. In Nevada, Jackie Rosen trying to hold off the Republican challenger Sam Brown. In Pennsylvania, another one of those battleground presidential races, Bob Casey's trying to hold off Dave McCormick. You see how close these numbers are. You see how close these margins are. And in Wisconsin, another Democratic seat, another incumbent trying to protect the seat for the party. Tammy Baldwin with a slight edge now over Eric Hoffman. Oh, by the way, control of the U.S. House is also up for grabs. And at this point, it's too close to call. Narrow margins.
Let me go wake up this child. Open up my window, don't take a nice shower. 6:20. I need to go wake his ass up.
New York Sport District, Long Island, leans Democrat, that would be a win for Republicans. New York's 19th district, upstate. Democrats appear poised to win that one back from Republicans, but the Republicans made inroads in those presidential battleground states.
I'll leave you over here to watch this. I'm gonna go upstairs to look at the
All right, Scott, thank you so much. As we unpack election day and spring things forward, we're going to look at what President Trump's priorities might be when he takes office. We're watching CBS Mornings.
All right, people, I'll be back.
that wants investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Clearly more news, more smart conversation, more money savings, more recipes, more uplifting ways to get you on your way.
Plus, more sports, more weather.
Clearly more CBS Mornings.
When my doctor gave me breast treatment for my COPD, I noticed things changed. Breast treatment gave me better breathing starting within 5 minutes. It also reduced flare-ups.
Breast treatment will replace breast imaging if you suffer any problems. This is not for asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure. Don't take breast treatment if prescribed. Breast treatment increases risk of flush, oxygen, and osteoporosis. Call your doctor if there's breathing, chest pain, mouth, tongue swelling, problems, or any condition changes or eye occur.
Ask your doctor about breast treatment.
Risk to these children posed to Russia.
World is prepared for this trend.
Go to the ends of the earth. What now? We got something crazy. And reach for the stars. Here we go. Experience thought-provoking, innovative, and truly original performing because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday Morning.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table every single day.
We've got breaking news, craziness, big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of movement and at the final round of play.
Endless volunteers should be planning another attack.
This person is a closer look at the two people, including some Americans who say United States is one out of one less dysfunctional and complex. His reports expose the system, the people responsible for it, and those pushing for change.
I'm not fighting against them. I'm fighting for them to do the right thing.
To watch us downstream militaries as an example.
I'm Erin Moriarty of 48 Hours, and of all the cases I've covered, this is the one that troubled me most. Listen to Murder in the Orange Grove, a case against Rosa Green, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen to it.
Superstar reports popcorn and get ready. I want to, yeah. Oh, yeah, I will if you will.
It's okay. Renting is fine. Sponsored.
asking that yet. One of the very important keys to Donald Trump's victory was getting a larger share of votes from Latinos. As just exit polls showed, Trump got 45% of the Latino vote. That's 11% more than in 2020. Now that may be a record for a Republican presidential candidate. The last one to get such a large share of Latino support was former President George W. Bush, and that was back in 2004. He was the last GOP candidate to win an overall majority of the popular vote. We want to talk about this now with CBS News political analyst and GOP strategist Leslie Sanchez. I know you had a very late night too, Leslie. Good to see you this morning. But we have to talk about that Latino vote. You know, despite the racist comments that were made in Madison Square Garden very recently, he still received a big share of the Latino vote. I'm curious about why you think that is. At one point, someone on Team Trump said, listen, Latinos and Hispanics can take a joke. Do you think it was that simple? I think it's a long time coming. I wrote a book called Most Important Economists, Why Hispanics and Republicans Hate Each Other back in 2007, talking about this idea of a united, the idea that the Latino population had been here for multiple generations, 2 generations, and they very much upon Republican values, conservative, family-oriented, that many of us are in the military, but it was distinctly different. But I think that then, and what I know now, what I'm also now, is this is an economic argument. This is more and more like an economic to that middle class, that working class, who feel that they're left out politically, and they want to start having the voters. You're seeing that ripple effect in South Texas. It was happening over the last couple of elections, like I saw the triple turn ago. As the analysts were trying to determine, was this a Donald Trump effect or was this a Republican kind of conservative effect? And what we found is it's an influence, but it was part of this working class movement, and Trump had leaned into that. That's the growth you're seeing. So remarkably, to the final point, across the board, from the Sun Belt to the West Belt, you saw shifts in Latino voters, predominantly Latino men, moving to the Republican side and guaranteeing this big landslide victory.
Leslie, as Bill mentioned, those comments at the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden were offensive, and that was a reflection of what we saw throughout his campaign. You described it as decorum, especially over the last few weeks. Some would say the campaign became unhinged, and former President, now President, became even more unhinged. As a Republican strategist, how would you like to see them in office the next 4 years? Would you like to see them more presidential and leave the legacy that is sustained?
The interesting part of that question, especially I'm going to specifically to the Puerto Ricans, I believe it's a certain comment that you're alluding to that they made out of a Trump rally. But in speaking to Puerto Rican voters, for example, in the suburbs of Philadelphia, they would say, in 2016, I voted for Trump. In 2020, I didn't like his style. I didn't like him. I voted for Biden. But this time, I'm going to come back around and vote for Trump. Do I like his comment? Absolutely not. It's not what I want my children to hear. spread. It doesn't harken back to a day when you looked at the president and there was some type of moral. This is a very disruptive type of president. We know that. And fundamentally, people heard this comments about Mexican Americans in 2016, crossing the border and all these different things. But we felt that he was not speaking directly about them. He was speaking about a problem related to a porous border. So that distinction happens in the Latino community, and that's why he does garner such tremendous support.
So that distinction that you're talking about, Leslie, is so interesting to me, and I've long wondered, and we talked about this privately, if now both parties need to stop thinking about the Latino vote as a model, because you mentioned Puerto Ricans, and that is very different, for example, than the way perhaps Cubans might vote in the state of Florida, a state that you know very, very well, and that is different than the way, for example, Dominican Americans here in New York City might vote, because the issues are different, and I think for too long, operators have treated the Latino vote just the same way that they treat the Black vote as a monolith, and maybe it's time to think about it a little bit different. How do you see it?
It's starting to think about it differently. It's trying to start thinking about it as like Americans, right? The idea that we're broken down into these different ethnic groups and silos is not what the Latino voters are really looking for. You remember that Donald Trump in this election was 45%. He runs 45%. That's a historic amount of support of any Republican presidential candidate in history. He didn't even win 50%, right? He didn't get 51%. But when Republicans, especially at the top of the ticket, can get in that 45% range, they win down ballot and they win in a landslide that you saw in the Sun Belt, and it's moving its way across the country. So, to your point, issues that are important, economy is important regardless of their zip code, of their heritage, of their place of origin and place of work, or even the language they spoke at home. These are working class, middle class families that are really struggling and they're looking for a way out.
Let's say before you go, are you personally okay with how he behaves as a Republican strategist? Is there ever a talk amongst yourselves that, boy, I wish he wouldn't do that, or are you okay with how he moves in the world?
Yeah, I come out from the Bush Republicans, a big part of the Republican Party as long as I've been voting in. This is not, I was a regular Republican. This is not the way. The reason I decided to go into public service, I expected to my time to be to spend among a group of men and running at a time with the style of our president and now soon to be President Trump. But I tell you, as times change, I feel his leadership is the right type of leadership for all communities, and especially in my community, because on the fundamentals of improving the economy, getting inflation down, and securing the border, he's the right person for the job.
A lot of people agree with me. Yeah, the transcends what Leslie basically saying. It transcends the economy, transcends race and class. Leslie Sanchez, always grateful talking to my friend. Thank you very much. All right, still ahead. The former president has said promises made, promises kept. We're going to take a look at what a second Trump administration is likely to look like for most Americans. First, time for a check here with the weather.
I'm a voracious consumer of information and news. I am constantly curious and constantly want more to learn. I know I personally want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table. The justices ruled that Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
The aftermath of the Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions, uncertainty sets in for some students of color. The action that made some people up in the 80s. Reforms is more than the story decision they were able to those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle.
Affirmative action now streaming on the Free Citizens app.
Your Holiness, Limonada, so wonderful to meet you.
Much led to many conversations with
What's the latest report from the Trump campaign? Great to be with you inside the Trump campaign today in Florida. There is a lot of celebration and planning. There's already discussion about how this Trump transition will look and who would staff this new administration at the White House and who would fill the key cabinet slots. There's a lot of jubilation of the Republicans because they have Senate control of the White House, and central control of the House. Will be able to enact possibly a very ambitious agenda. They're going over plans for the mass deportation proposal by former President Trump to go after undocumented migrants in this country. There's a push already to extend the Trump tax cuts from 2017. And you see the business community behind the scenes is rallying around Trump for the most part, believing that he is going to deregulate many of the industries in this country.
It was interesting because he said that he's going to free some people convicted for the roles on January 6th. Prior Special Counsel Jack Smith, within seconds of taking office. Would any of those moves surprise you? I asked this, Bob, and Ed too, because when I was in Pennsylvania talking to voters, people would say, "Oh, that's just Trump and Trump." You can't always believe everything he says. Sometimes he just says things, but it doesn't mean he's going to do that. What do you all think?
I would think those are two things he's going to do. At least firing Jack Smith for sure. Just like overall. And we're going to probably see mass resignations of career attorneys that don't necessarily be there for. Not only there, but across the federal government. So that's one thing. The January 6th, defendants, we'll see exactly how that will go. I'm more curious to see what he does in economic law. The tax that they come to extend the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy. Can he make good on the campaign promise to end taxation for tips? That's what may have won him to that. It was such a popular issue that Kamala Harris had to go and adopt it herself. When the voters out there are now expecting to do this for them. Bartenders will make $100,000 a year in tips in a year, want those $30,000 a year. But they want to know, well, how would that be reported if I need to go buy a house or buy a car? And that will cost $250 million over the next decade. That's something the Republicans are going to take on. So a lot of these campaign promises sounded great and may have been a fuel for base, but the details of them, what they say, government approach, campaign approach,
Even with extensive experience in those roles, might look different this time around.
When you, if you're just waking up and you see Donald Trump is now going to be president of the United States again, the former president to be the 47th president, you have to conceptualize a different kind of presidency on the horizon. Former President Trump, based on reporting at CBS News, believes that because the Supreme Court in recent months ruled that presidents have immunity, broadly speaking, when it comes to so-called official acts, that if he leaves the White House, as CBS News has projected, he would be an empowered president in his view to have a tight grip over the executive branch of this country, to staff it with loyalists, whether it's the Justice Department, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Trade Commission, all of these agencies that have his people. And there's a new movement around Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Tucker Carlson, J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect, Elon Musk, one of the world's richest people, all around Trump trying to overhaul the United States government. The United States, the American people have just elected someone who wants to transform the country and has a full confidence in his ability to command a political movement, to keep himself afloat, even if he has his critics in the Congress, in the press, or elsewhere. And do you think he'll be able to do that? Because what Donald's right now sounds like a Trump presidency, since we know he's not going to run again. The Trump presidency is no longer on any level.
Constitutionally, he's not gonna get, but what's to say there's no Trump? Yeah. Right? And I think that's one of the fears that some supporters may have, is that he may try to find some kind of a way, well, not supporters, critics, may feel. But he has said this was his last campaign, this is his last time. We'll see. I would, let me say one thing, I know that a lot of people waking up this morning thrilled about this, and there are a lot of people waking up this morning confused when they heard about this. And I'm reminded of a guy named John I met in Wisconsin, Apple, Wisconsin. He said he was supporting the vice president, he was praying for her head. But he said, if she doesn't win, life goes on, and we have to move on, try again. It's an important thing for all Americans, whether you won last night or you lost, you've got to be able to the country to move forward. And you can remember that in 2 years and in 4 years, we're not going to get the perspective. Just briefly, to Ed's point, the key thing to watch today, what does President Biden say? What does Vice President Harris say? Watch. Thank you very much. And always great to have you. Thank you both very much for your time. Magic number has been 50 for Republicans to get control of the U.S. Senate. Now that Donald Trump has prevailed, they are at 52. With this development, CBS News is projecting in Montana, the Republican will prevail and win this seat. Military veteran and political newcomer Tim Sheehy ousting three-term Democratic incumbent John Tester. John Tester has been a survivor in this seat. He's never shared a place on a ballot with Donald Trump, and he seems to have lost by a significant margin based on this so far. Watch the number, though, in the top right of your screen. 52 for now. Every number that ticks up gives Donald Trump more leverage over the Senate. All right, Scott McFarland, we'll check in with you a little bit later. Meanwhile, officials across the country say despite some long lines and polling gone, the 2024 election was fair and safe. CBS News election laws for every year. David Becker is joining us now. He's the executive director of the Center of Election Innovation and Research. David, good to see you this morning. So, ahead of the 2024 election, you said that the U.S. election system was more secure than it ever has been. How did we do last night? Well, it was definitely a political triumph for Republican Donald Trump last night. It's also a triumph of the Democratic process. Public servants for our election, the whole of this country did a remarkable job in turnout that looks like it's going to vote record
risk to these children posed Russia? We got something for you. I'm a voracious consumer of information and constantly curious. I want to know the basic facts of every issue and to press into the heart of the matter. Information is the currency of democracy, and that's what we bring to the table here today. We've got breaking news, great news. This morning, big news coming out of the NFL. A lot of people are like, what if the Knicks at the final round play?
And his commentary is really funny. Another attack.
This person is a closer look, but including some Americans who seem to have said, "Well, not from this complex system that people responsible for and those pushing for change." I'm not fighting against them. I think that that's a different thing. Watch this downstream of the free CBS News app. This can happen to anybody. It's okay. Renting is fine. Fossil is bad. School capital is bad. It's not true. Yeah, they are wonderful. Breaking news overnight, CBS News can project that Donald Trump has been elected 47th President of the United States. Welcoming to CBS Mornings on the campaign, that's Nick Pelosi, that's Planet GTA. Tony's going to join us from Florida for full coverage of Trump's historic victory. But first, is today's Eye Opener, tomorrow in 90 seconds.
It is clear that we need to achieve the most incredible
Take those back out.
Starting at the south, the spot CBS projects as one of the states of North Carolina. CBS also projects as a part of the state of Georgia, which narrowly lost after 20.
Why don't you say something, please? Shut up and say something here. Then I tell them hurry up so to get to the bus stop. They're worried about what damn what I stand up for. You need to be at the freaking bus stop. You picking up people, be worried about his house after get to the freaking bus stop.
Hey, look, it's a different kind of morning in America. It's a historic one.